Okay, we are live and it's Sunday and I'm here with Nina. This is Paula Connor. Hello. And this is Nina from Florida. You were just at the beach and I was at the lake yesterday, but your beach is much warmer than mine because our water was only 64 degrees. It was chilly. It was a chilly polar dip, but I went swimming. That'll be the last one of the year because our colors are already starting to change here in Canada. How are you, Nina? How are you doing?
I'm amazing. I just did yoga on the beach and received some messages to share from the mermaids and the ocean and, you know, just another day in Atlantis.
It's so cool because I remember I actually met mermaids in my ayahuasca ceremony. There were 2 of them, which was beautiful. It was amazing. Anyway, I digress. So how about we pop up into our hearts just for a quick few moments so that we open up our heart space to all of those that are listening. So please focus your attention on the area of your heart. Imagine the breath is flowing in and out of your heart space, breathing in and out a little slower and deeper than usual, and then make a sincere attempt to activate a feeling of compassion and care for self, love self and other. And let's just go a moment or 2. So there's just the 2 of us today because life is very busy.
Yes.
There's lots going on with our sisters on the planet, and there's lots going on the planet. And you know, you and I were talking a little bit earlier, and we wanted self-worth and worthy.
Yes.
Huge. It's been a huge pull for me the last little bit, and I think where we're headed with what's about to unfold, we are going to need more than ever the anchor and that trust, the trust within, that voice within, as the beautiful Christine Aguilera sings so nicely in her song Soar, right? That's a good song. If anybody needs a song to lift their spirits, that's a good one. So should we start with like what we're both experiencing in our own lives, maybe as a way to kick off this conversation?
Yeah, I think that would be gorgeous.
Well, for me, I absolutely love my life. My life is, so I understand that the lessons come in the day that you're in, and how we have access to source in the moment that we're in, the day that we're in. And I just had the most incredible, I literally feel like I'm living in heaven on earth. I feel like I'm in a different world because I have so much joy every single day. And, you know, a stick bug is one thing that keeps on presenting for me this summer. I haven't seen my entire life. And I noticed this week I had one on me. It hitched a ride home from the forest, which is just so cool. I know that sounds so, you know, trivial, but I think that's the point, is when you can witness the beauty and life, the gift of life in the most simplest of things. And of course, when we're in nature, that's where we have easy access. It's easy to get into that flow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there's all kinds of things happening in the external world, but when we let all of that go, it really is experience to be alive and to witness the divine, everything that you see, that you have. How about you? What are you noticing?
Well, I really relate. I feel like I'm walking in this world in a different world. And I've been having just a lot of experiences of that personal deepening with love, and the love of the Creator, the love of Gaia, learning to love myself that way, love other people that way. I've had some, I'm always looking at my shadow, you know, because that, I think that's really one of the most important things that any of us can do right now. And we have all these tools to use, and I've been noticing that I'm really grateful for it because I've been praying for it, but I kept asking for assistance with how to not be judgmental with those that are wearing the masks or are maybe operating on a really different level, because I think that's really hard. And I can feel sometimes that the indigo in me, the warrior-esque, you know, wants to come out and confront or say something. And what's been really interesting is I feel like I've been experiencing a reharmonization between the indigo and the crystalline aspect working together, which really feels more of that bridging heaven and earth, because I know the indigo is absolutely galactic, but in some ways it feels more grounded to the earth than the crystalline does. The crystalline's always flowing up here, and the indigo is, you know, that very kind of centered warrior standing strong. And so in a way, I feel like it's very representative of my own inner masculine and feminine, because I identify the indigo aspect as masculine and the crystalline as feminine in my own case. But what's been really beautiful is Creator has been coming into these moments, like if I'm in the grocery store and maybe my little, you know, my fire is stoked and somebody goes by and they have the mask on, because it gets really hard after a while to see this all the time, to see people just everywhere all masked up. And I realized this new presence in me is bless those that you would judge. You're there to bless them. You don't need to say a word, but they need that blessing more than anybody else right now, because they are so asleep, because they are so much in fear, because they have bought so much into the narrative. And so what I've just been really experiencing is how when we are operating on this completely different level within the 3D matrix, we kind of can learn how to be ninjas energetically, where we're very much affecting the balance, or affecting the vibration, we're affecting everyone. And we're just kind of floating around in a way like the mermaids, just swimming around the waters, not necessarily saying this is what I'm doing or needing to make ourselves very known. And in other ways, I feel like a fairy, where I fly in and then I fly out quickly before I can get caught in some type of game or something. So it's been pretty exciting. And then I wanted to share one more thing, Paula, because this is very exciting to me. I've been experimenting with galactic codes and frequencies, and really diving more into what does it mean to embody these codes and frequencies. And so as I love studying quantum physics, and I know that you're into this too, and we're both, you have your own scalar machine and I have mine. I use the Healy, and I don't remember what you use, but
I use the Indigo biofeedback device.
Okay, yeah. But as I've been connecting to that, and that has just helped me tremendously. I was walking in the mall. I had to go to the mall, and I don't like going to the mall. And as I was walking, I started feeling like I couldn't breathe because there wasn't a lot of oxygen in there, even though I didn't have a mask on. Other people had masks on in the mall. I can't imagine. And this voice said, you know, the Galactics came in and they said, Nina, you have the ability to activate your own codes and frequencies all the time. You just have to ask. And I was like, activate oxygen, increase oxygen, activate oxygen. And I swear to you, I started feeling like I had an oxygen mask on and I was breathing oxygen. And then I was like, activate lavender. Wow. And I started smelling lavender. So I think that as we're coming into these understandings of like really what it means to be galactic and StarSeeds, we're going to start understanding how to use these codes and frequencies that are contained in the quantum library of the vibrational fields. And so I'm sharing this because I'm like, everybody do it. It's so awesome.
Well, it is so crazy that you said that, because we got, as I say, out to Beaujolais Bay, which is to say we're out on Georgian Bay, and we can actually sail anywhere in the world from that body of water. It'll take us anywhere. We go to any ocean globally. And as I mentioned, it was like 64 degrees. So it's quite cool. So we finally get there. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday. And I get into the water and I'm literally doing exactly what you just said you did, except I didn't use the same language. I'm looking at the sun and I was imagining, and with out of my own being, making the top half of the water where I was swimming warmer. And
Okay.
yeah, it actually felt like about 18 inches below the surface was indeed warmer. And this would be along the same lines, I guess, as the Buddhists who would melt water beside them. That's actually how powerful we are when we're aligned, I believe, with source in the now moment. We can actually, that's true creator God capability.
Yes.
Why would we not be able to not control, but influence in a very positive way our immediate environment to enrich our experience?
Yes.
And it goes to belief, right? If you believe, didn't they say that if you have the belief of a mustard seed, that we can move mountains?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is so awesome because this is us learning how to really allow ourselves to receive our worthiness. We are worthy of receiving our codes and frequencies. We are worthy of receiving divine assistance. We are worthy to ask, to be so sovereign that we would say, okay, as a co-creator, I'm going to ask for assistance at this time. But this is a new way where what I'm hearing right now is we're maturing as starseeds, and we're maturing as galactic beings that came here. We're maturing into our emotional bodies. We're maturing into our codes and frequencies. And we're learning what it is to actually physically use these gifts that we've been given. But we can't do that if we feel like we're not worthy to receive these beautiful gifts that have been given to us, which is a huge piece of it, which is the highlight of what we're discussing here. So
yeah, worth is huge. Worth is so huge, and self-love is so huge. And so what the guides, whenever I talk about the guides, I'm referring to the guides that come through Paul Selig, because they have been, I don't hear like you hear. I get pictures and I get no, I don't know how I know, I just know. So it works a little bit different for me, which is very cool. But what they were teaching us this week, which I'd never heard before, because the biggest thing is, where have you denied love within yourself? Where have you denied the divine within yourself? What they talked about was true love. What true love really is the recognition of the essence of that person, the truth of their being, not how they behave, not how they show up, not the choices that they make. Or to your point, the way they would say it is, we cannot judge the path another has claimed that we have not claimed for ourselves. We cannot. It's none of our business. It's between them and creator. But that's really true love, because I know, Nina, you and I were talking a little while ago, right? Where would we deny love? We would not deny love in a young child who was perhaps soiled, who needed shelter and care and warmth, but would we deny that of an individual who had just committed a crime? Because what we've done is we've made the sinner the sin. The action they took, perhaps in ignorance or in their ego self, or when they were overcome, the choice they made that got them into a jackpot, that's a choice that they made, but we can't deny them love because they did something we disagree with.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a wow for me, right? Because that means even the darkest of the darkest of the dark choices must love in order to lift them. Eradicate what can't be lifted, and lift and reknown or restore, as they would say, to the initial seed point or the genesis point of that creation, and then over time or however it got distorted. But yeah, and what you were saying too about paying attention to our shadow, one of the things that I've noticed is when we release or can move through a shadow aspect that we had not seen before. Now we can see it, it can be cleared. What happens when we can clear and integrate that? All these other gifts come tumbling in.
Yes.
And it's all new stuff. Like you know, this is new, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. It's like each shadow walk is another phase in the initiatory process. And then when you get through the fire of the purification, which is that integration, what looked to be tarnished turns into a beautiful treasure. And I think that's just a gorgeous representation of what this walk is, because how many times have you thought, and I know in my own life, there were things about myself that I was like, I could only see it from the perspective of judging myself. And so by seeing it from that perspective, I felt like it was a curse upon me. These beautiful gifts that I had been given, that we've all been given, that we learned to be ashamed of, or we learned to cloak, or we learned to hide for fear of what may or may not happen to us, which has to do with many, many lifetimes of what did happen to us for these gifts, but that's not the game we're playing right now. And to see these gifts now come out from hiding, and then to look at the wounded one behind all of it, who really is just asking for the light of love. It's incredible. I feel like, okay, I'm gonna sound like such a weirdo saying this, but sometimes I feel like these aspects of self, of the collective, they're like the orphan aspects of us. They just need a home, and they're beat up, and they're sort of, I see them, you know, laying on the streets, like, which is such a representation of seeing the homeless in that way. They are a reflection of that aspect of us that we have just discarded and said, no, I'm not going to look at you because you're dirty or you're soiled. And Paula, you and I love Yeshua so much. We love Christ so much. And Christ consciousness is all about, I mean, Christ was the lover of those that were soiled the most. Christ wasn't hanging out with the shiny people. Christ was hanging out with those that they deemed as prostitutes, and the sick, and the dirty, and the lepers, and he was there blessing them.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's such, what?
I was going to say, those that were discarded from humanity.
Exactly.
We're not worthy of our society. You don't conform, you don't behave, you don't adhere to, and therefore pushed out.
Yes.
Darkness.
And we've really done that. We've really done that in this society. Now, there is a fine line, because if you are also someone who's extremely empathic and you are a healer, and I have to be very careful of this, not anymore, really. Well, I think caution is always important, just to know our own, maybe, I don't want to say the shadow side, but there can be a weakness to every gift that we have. So if one is extremely empathic and their heart is very open, sometimes they're not the best with setting up boundaries, because you can't go out and rescue every single lost puppy, is what I'm saying. And the lost puppies flock to the light. So I'm not saying that in this case that you need to necessarily personally take someone into your home or get into a relationship with them or take that on, but it's more just, how are you viewing it? And how do you view it? Do you view it as separate from yourself? Are they beneath you? Or are they somehow, can you see that this is actually an aspect of you, because you are a part of the whole, and the whole contains every experience we've ever had as a collective, which has caused us to just continually expand as source God, as droplets of the ocean of love.
Yeah, and just to further expand on the whole topic of Christ, Yeshua. Christ consciousness is forgiveness of everything and everyone.
Yes.
Forever. Right? And it's the small self, the ego self, the judgment, to your point, what we judge in another, we judge in ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Anybody that's listening is getting angry at somebody else's behavior. It's like, okay, hang on, but I must have that vibe on board. I must have something going on within me that requires love, because love is the only healer. It's the only balm, like literally the balm. It is the balm, not like a lip. It is the balm. It's the universal solvent. And as we move through these times ahead, this great reveal, we have to remember and to remind our fellows that there is nothing stronger than source. It's source's light that pierces the darkness.
That's right.
It's light that eradicates the darkness because it's illuminated, and that it itself can even be reknown and lifted and restored.
Yes.
Intention.
Yes.
The guides this week in their teaching, they used a very interesting metaphor that when the light comes, it's very much like awakening a sleeping dragon.
Okay.
You go back to those Harry Potter. Was it Harry Potter? Did he have a dragon? I don't remember. I know he had the serpent, of course, but I thought he had. You can just imagine in any one of those sort of like movies where the dragon is awakened for the moment. It's like, right? Because you're frightened.
But you're cutting in and out, so I'm just having trouble catching what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about when a sleeping dragon is awakened.
Yes.
When that first happens, we would probably prefer that it remained asleep. Right?
It's true. It's true.
Yes, a little bit of technical difficulties with my my internet. Let me know when I'm back and you can hear me okay.
I will. But it's true. It's true about the sleeping dragon. I mean, so many people are really pushing. They really want things to come out. They really want the truth to come out. They really want something very big to happen. And the message that I received from the Galactics was, it can't happen until you're all vibrationally ready to create that reality together and to receive it. Because we're all co-creating this together. There's absolutely no way that we're not. And I understand that we're in this duality and there's a war, and we have the dark hats versus the white hats, and we have those that are the StarSeeds and the Galactics versus those that are very much serving a different agenda. But they were saying that when the StarSeeds converge in a similar heart resonance, in a field that is anchored, that is stable, there will be a huge shift. But that shift, it's not like that shift happens and then it shifts us. It's like we are that shift. We have to keep rising. We have to keep ascending. We have to keep doing the work. We have to keep going, well, where am I creating separation? Where am I still creating separation? Where am I still judging? And it's really hard. It's really hard because it's a lot easier to look at all of this and say, well, those are the pedophiles and those are but the reality is that they also are part of the entire collective creative experience right now. And they are serving in some way. I see they're serving source without meaning to serve source. They are being used to wake up so many. And what if that's the role they play for us?
I just muted my microphone because a fellow across the street is drilling. You know, whenever you do video, there's always like no, right? It's like, it's just so funny.
I know.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, it's funny, you were talking when we first began about loving everyone, loving yourself, loving whoever is before you more, claiming them. To your point, we bless the homeless person and we see them in their highest potential, don't damn them, because then we concretize it, right? We hold that in form. So fun that you were talking about loving. There's I got this note today, and it's actually from another. So you're a theta healer, right? You're a phenomenal. I tell everybody, Nina is a phenomenal theta healer. By the way, if you didn't already know,
Thank you.
it's amazing. This is from Jennifer Farley, who is also a theta healer practitioner, and the posting was called "Divine Incarnate," and she wrote from the Creator wrote, "It starts as a gentle stirring, a feeling of love in your being. It grows and pulses outward to everything and everyone around you. It's sent out to the universe and it's returned to you in waves." I call that the echo. What you put out, you get back, that echo. "You will begin to love everyone, even those that do not appear to deserve it. This is when you know, really know, you are part of the divine incarnate." So true, because the world needs love. It does not need more hatred and more anger. We've done a pretty good job of creating a world without source. We've denied source in ourselves, in each other. So we've created this heartless world. And really, to everyone who's listening, we're witnessing the death of that world, because without source, which is truth of all, it can't survive.
Right.
It will not survive based in fear and denying the truth of the Creator, which we talked about before as the infrastructure, and Yahweh, or not Yahweh, sorry, Yeshua, the divine Christ is the only way to reach source.
Yeah.
And that song that you were talking about, that starseed frequency, that have also been talking about, that being the original tone, the one tone that manifests all, the original sound, is now available on this planet. And that, I think, is what you and I, when we were talking about experiencing heaven on earth, like my life is absolute joy, like an absolute joy. I feel like that is the coherent resonance with that original tone from the
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that is representative of our own unique heart song, which is like the beautiful piece of music that Source wrote when creating each of us. And when that music plays in our hearts, it's like we are allowing Source to play us, to play through us.
Yeah.
And this whole piece around worthiness it's so interesting, because in so many ways, religion was used in an inverted manner. Christ was used and taken and inverted to tell people you're not worthy. You are soiled. You are dirty. You are unclean. You are not worthy. You're basically terrible. I mean, it goes so deep. And when you take that and you put it back the way that I think that Source Christ did, the Christed heart of Source created that true frequency and that true shining truth to be, is the truth is that I love you and I created you. And when you feel how much I love you, you will actually not want to serve self anymore. When you can receive the love that I have for you, when you can see yourself through my eyes, when you can receive the beauty that I gave you, the creativity that I gave you, the talents that I gave you, the gifts that I gave you, when you can listen to me more than the world, when I define you more than the world, you will want to ultimately serve Source, because you will feel like this is the mother, father you've been looking for. You won't feel like you're an orphan anymore. You won't feel like you've been marked with a scarlet letter. You won't feel like you're, beneath society. You won't feel judged. You will feel loved, and love changes people. And Source was showing me what it's like to look through the eyes of the Creator. to see everyone. And when I was experiencing this, I realized that without this judgment, it was acceptance, but it was honest acceptance of Source, looking at all of Source's children, recognizing where each one was on their journey and not judging them for being there on their journey, and not judging them for doing the things that you do in that phase of a journey, but also being honest about where they were at. So it wasn't like Source was like, well, this person that is, murdering people, this person would be a great person to have teach children. No, it was like, this person is experiencing tremendous separation. They are still right there. So I'm going to love them where they're at in acceptance of that. I don't reject them. I'm hoping they come home to me. But I'm also going to, there's boundaries there, and they're karmically responsible. And I'm trying to get their attention to get them to get the lesson so that they evolve out of this. And I think that's also part of it too that's important, is when we talk about love, sometimes with those of us that have such big hearts and are huge lovers, we need to understand too that it means love them where they're at as well. And that's truth and honesty and discernment. And the difference between judgment and discernment is spiritual wisdom, having boundaries. You can be discerning about how much you let someone in, or how you would operate with them. Maybe you need to love them and bless them from a distance, because if you go up to the murderer, they're going to murder you. You're not going to do that. But judgment would be, I'm going to judge them for experiencing murder right now, for having this lesson right now. Those are the two different things that I think get confused amongst us. What do you think, Paula?
Yeah, what I would add to that is, like you said, that individual, in spite of the choices they've made, like to take a life of another, which of course is denying the divine in themselves and in that other person.
Right.
From our perspective, I would add that true compassion is recognizing your fellow is in challenge. They're in great challenge with their choices, what they're doing, which is exactly what you said. Right. And then, yes, to your point, the discernment is indeed, it's the knowing. And you can love somebody outside of proximity. Like if you separate from a partner, as an example, true maturity, emotional maturity and whatnot, we will eventually get to a point where we can still love them from a distance, thank the experience, and be okay with, the relationship is over, but we don't need to withhold hate for a millennia, because then that creates more density on this plane. And then what I would add again to it is, I think there's a couple of things. I got all these little ideas popping into my being right now. The other thing I would suggest for folks is building confidence and have trust that when you ask your team or you ask Source for you to claim your gifts or to claim experiences or a more tangible relationship, know that it will be done. It will be so. And the only barrier is your own belief as to whether or not you feel you can have it, which goes back to worth. Of course, you're worthy. Of course you're worthy. It'd be kind of like denying your big toe a kiss if you've stubbed it, which is a basic metaphor, but we're in the body of God, of Source. We're in, like, the breath. Breath is Source, right? Our hair, our teeth, our eyes, everything. And I was with you earlier, like, one of the things I love to do in like a waking meditation is to watch the wind interact on the water. Move. And if I could explain, if I could say what water was to me in a tapestry, it would be silk. Like, it feels like silk, and it's almost, I've even seen with my vision is changing too. I'm seeing things differently. And when I witness the water and the wind dancing, and then of course you've got the glorious sunlight, the diamond sunlight on the water now. I'm setting up the picture, right? It's just like, it's witnessing witnessing creation in magic in creation, or like I can't even find the words for how incredibly beautiful it is.
I completely relate, Paula. It's one of my favorite, those sparkle diamonds on the water. I sit there, I just take pictures and pictures and pictures.
I know, it's so beautiful.
I don't know, they remind me of stars, they remind me of stardust, and it's the same. And that is the beauty that we are created of. Yeah. We are a part of that. And when you start to receive the beauty outside of you as a reflection of the beauty inside of you,
yeah,
changes everything.
Like I'm in love with everything. Like I could cry in joy every day. Like
yeah.
An insect, or over a bird, or over, because our lessons come in the day. So like I literally walk around in my world now having a love affair with Source, because because I've claimed that I am worthy, which means everybody listening is too, because it's good for me, it's good for you too, which is awesome.
That's right.
I've claimed that. Source recognizes, oh, she wants a relationship with me, and I'm because I've been running into the arms of Source for years, like, you know, launching off a cliff, knowing that I'll be embraced and held. But when you claim it, Source knows, oh, she wants a relationship with me, and then we start to have experiences witnessing God or Source outside of ourselves, because the love is so anchored, to your point, within. The heaven has been created, the kingdom of heaven has been created within, and
yes.
must manifest in the external world.
Yes. And this is Cymatics. I was learning about Cymatics because I was not familiar with it, but this is how we actually change the outside world when we shift. It's like painting with frequencies and vibrations. And I used to always have these memories of doing that in Lemuria. We used to all do that. We would paint with sound. We would influence the tapestry of nature or life around us, not by changing it, but by creating with it, playing with it, harmonizing with it. And it all came through connecting with Source, through the heart. It was co-creating with Source. And I have been learning about Cymatics, and because I noticed that if I sing outside, and I'm sure many of us are experiencing this, the clouds will start to change, or colors will start to come through, and you're looking at it going, I did that. We did that, Source. We did that together. We're creating together right now. And Source creates artwork to show you the reflection of that beauty. And this is a higher level of romance with Source, when you start reflecting back and forth with Source, and Source is now painting the canvas around you. And that's what I feel like is the divine romance between the masculine and the feminine, as Gaia, God, merging through us, because they literally get to have their love affair in us, through us, by celebrating us. And we are worthy of receiving that celebration. Source loves it when Source gets to celebrate us through us so much. I mean, it's amazing to me when I break it down. I go, okay, Nina, so Source created you. Do you think that Source was like, I created you, therefore, like, I don't care, you're just a creation, I made your trash, do what you want? No! No! Like, no, you're precious. Your Source created you. Do we get what that means? Like, the light of love. Source was like, there needs to be one of you. And Source created a formula and created a song, which was you, and was like, I'm gonna put a little stardust in here, and I'm gonna take the twinkle of the waters, and I'm gonna take you know, all these different things, and I'm going to create a Paula. Oh my God, look, I created a Paula, and oh, I created a Nina. So when I see it this way, I just, it's a completely different perspective on how much our world teaches us not to love ourselves and not to love each other, and religion teaches us you're trash, you're dirty, blah, blah, blah. It's a completely different perspective. And if this were to shift on the planet, I think that we would have an entire, maybe ascension process would accelerate, especially amongst the star seeds and the angels who are here, who are still dealing with, I'm not worthy of this, of these gifts and of this awakening. I'm not worthy of holding this much light.
Yeah. And that's where we begin. And is to look at those parts of ourselves that we have denied, that we are ashamed of, whatever we in the darkness and said that I'm ashamed of that, I'm guilty of that. Give that to Source as an offering. Please take this from me so that it can be lifted, right? You don't have to, and that's the thing, right? When we do that, I know that I'm sure you've experienced this in my own shadow work. When I witness an aspect of myself that perhaps I've not seen before, because sometimes things are right here and I still can't see them, right? Right in my face, and I can't see
all the time.
Yeah. When I finally do, it's in a moment. It's released from you. You only have you as soon as you see it, it's almost like poof, it's gone.
Yes.
Like we've got to like stay down in the hole and repent and, you know, beat yourself up. No, that's the small self, the ego self. To your point, that's the external world that's taught us that that's the way we're supposed to behave. That's not accurate, because as soon as you release it, got to feel it to heal it, kind of thing, and then it's gone immediately. And then pause, the new, like the expanded awareness comes in, and it's like, wow, I didn't know I did that before. I didn't realize that. And when I think about the heart right now, the picture they keep giving me, I have this fire in my heart right now. And it's been...
Wait, Paula, did you say pink? We missed that. What did you say?
Fire.
Did you say pink fire?
I said a burning fire.
Burning fire, okay.
Burning fire in my heart. And the picture they give me is it feels like I have a firework.
Yeah.
From my heart. In my mind's eye, I feel like I'm literally like this sparkler, so much bigger than that, but like this massive firework. That's like, you understand how you relate to what I'm saying?
Completely. I came up with a word. I don't know that I came up with it, but it was given to me because I was like, I don't know what word represents this feeling. And the word that came through was heartgasmic.
Ah, okay.
Because it's like the frequency, the polarity of the masculine feminine as represented as divine feminine masculine in you that is now integrating together, because these two polarities come together to create this firework, which is like the orgasmic love through you, through your heart. So the heartgasm.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I'm having a constant heartgasm right now.
Me too.
Which is pretty cool. And I think, to your point, when we how we lift our fellows, how we help them see and feel what we feel, is, to your point, through blessing them. If they've forgotten who they are, we know who they are, so we can lift them by our own witness. And it's also in our frequency, and our energy lifts them, our energy, our being, the true aspect of who we are, because we've agreed to align, and we've claimed, we said, yes, I'm worthy of this receipt, lifts everyone just in how we be.
Yes.
Which is so simple. Like, we've complicated everything, haven't we?
We really have. We wanted to experience tremendous separation so that we could wake up again, and now we are, and it's amazing. when I went down to the water today and was connecting with the mermaids, the message that came through was receptivity. And I love the mermaids because they will swim into those deep, dark places in your being with you and assist you in seeing what is hidden in the murky waters. I think that's such a great representation of life too, because like if you think about when the ocean is clear and crystal and you feel very safe going in there, but nobody wants to go in and possibly get eaten by the sharks when you're in the murky waters and you're out in the deep end. So the mermaids are they swim in those deep, deep waters, and then they bring it up beyond that depth to be integrated into the light, which is how I relate a lot to the work that I do. That's why I identify so much as cosmic mermaid. But they said receptivity. And I said, okay, what help me, because we're doing this about worthiness. And they said, well, you can't receive the gifts. You can't receive the beauty. You can't receive the treasures. You can't receive what's showing up to be given to you if you don't think you're worthy of receiving it. The other thing that they said was, sometimes it's not necessarily about worthiness. What it's about is that a lot of us have been sort of raised, or in this society, oftentimes gifts were given with a hook, or they were given with conditions, which we're talking about conditional love. So we've sort of learned to maybe not accept the gifts when they're presented and it's just, they were saying that if you are able to see, and come into your heart, there's many gifts that are not given. There's many gifts that are given without hooks. Yes, there are gifts that in society, they still have hooks and you don't want to receive these, but we're actually talking about your own gifts. Because all of you who do healing work and do this and that, you do it for everybody else. You use all your abilities to help everybody else, and that's beautiful, but you don't receive them yourselves. And as StarSeeds and as Galactics, there's this theme of insecurity, which I think is really important to talk about. The Pleiadians are known for being insecure, but I see it across the board. Any StarSeeds, any Galactics that have come in, we never fit in here. And we never felt like this was home in the way that society was set up. We were the weirdos. We were they told us we were dreamers. They told us we were weirdos. Most of us came out of broken marriage families, or sexual abuse, or physical abuse, or addiction issues. We've taken on really heavy stuff. So we kind of felt like the rejects of society, which creates an extreme insecurity. Because the truth is that our security would never, ever happen from outside of us. Our security has to come from source within. And they said, when you finally receive how much source loves you and teaches you and fills you with that, and also receive the gifts that source gave you. So you're always casting out, you're all always casting out your treasures. You're throwing your diamonds everywhere. But guess what? You never give them back to yourself. You never actually receive them. Can you please receive your own gifts? This is receptivity. And you have to realize that you're worthy, because you would not have been given those gifts. You would not have been given your beauty. You would have not been given your intuitive nature. You would not have been given all your starseed galactic nature if Source didn't trust you to hold it in a certain way. Source trusts you. Can you receive that? Like, wow, Source trusts me? Yeah, these gifts, of course, Source wouldn't just give these gifts to someone if they weren't going to serve Source with them. Wow. Well, the world says I'm, crazy and I don't fit in here, but Source really doesn't think I'm crazy at all. And these are the types of things that I think help those wounded aspects, because a lot of those wounded unworthiness patterns are coming from the inner child. Like, I remember it. I remember sitting in class with all the kids just being like, I am such a weirdo. I do not fit in here at all. And, or everybody else has like a normal family. Why is mine not normal? I'm just giving voice to all of the different things going on outside with everybody listening. And you feel like you're searching. You're always searching for home. Where is home? And then when you find that inside, like you said, you realize that you're worthy to receive your own inner heaven and all of the gifts and all of the treasures that come with it. And then you start experiencing heaven on earth, and with that nobody can take away, because it's not based on anything outside of you. It's not based on another person. It's between you and source. It's the greatest love affair of all. It's the greatest divine romance. For me, it's like, oh my God, it's so romantic.
And that's the only thing we can truly trust in these times now, as we move through this shift in consciousness, as we move through this octave, because as long as we are looking outside of ourselves for some kind of evidence that we're worthy, or that it's okay to be okay, or it's not okay to be okay, I need to cry, as long as something outside of me has to happen to affect my emotion or my mood, then we are ruled literally by the external reality. It's being pushed at us, instead of, to your point, when we trust source, and when we've agreed to receive and to align, and we've claimed our worthiness, we've claimed, yes, I want a relationship with you.
Yes.
Move through me, use me as an instrument in my life. We literally, like what we were talking about at the beginning of this conference, I feel like I'm in a completely different reality. I'm in my own kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
And more and more exciting every day. It's more and more beautiful every day. And I find that the external world, it's like a cartoon. Like you can let it go. Be in the world, but not of it.
Exactly.
That all we're doing is witnessing the death of a world that was created without God or source or love, true love. And the only, the picture they're showing me right now is I've got one leg over on this bridge over here, and there's like, we're straddling two worlds. Like this one's dying, but the new hasn't yet been created.
Right.
That's why you trust what's inside that heart, right? That beautiful heart. You trust that natural rhythm, which is real, right? And we can find it in nature so easily. That's what the gift of nature is so incredible.
Yes. Yes.
You need a little dose of G, as I call it, then get into nature.
Yes.
And then that's really the only thing. Right? We're straddling two worlds. This one's dying. The bridge is collapsing. Oh my gosh, you got to let go of that foot. And you have to trust source, because this new one is going to be born, but it will be born of our love and of our beauty and our desire to help each other. Can you imagine how quickly we can sort things out if we got together and said, okay, let's create something that lifts the lives of every single human being on this planet and just makes everything like 1,000,000% better. Do you know how amazing we could create a world? It's so quickly.
I do. I really do. And we're powerhouses of source. We are generators of source. And so as generators, we're all generating in the direction of source together. There's no limits to the expansion of love. Just as we've experienced what it's like to generate separateness. We know it really well.
Yeah.
This is part of when I work with clients who deal with unworthiness, and even with myself, because I self-talk to myself all the time, the way that I talk to clients. When you get into that place of unworthiness, it's like you have to talk yourself down from that ledge and talk yourself back into heaven, and almost in a way become your own, greatest teacher, your own greatest counselor. Do for you what you do for everybody else. Because if you're not operating in heaven, you really cannot be assisting anybody else anyways. You have to have your cup filled up from source within. But a lot of the clients that I have and a lot of the audience I know, they're getting very hung up on what they've been in the past. Like when people come do a theta healing with me, sometimes I've noticed recently, some people are getting very caught in, I can't believe I was at this, and I can't believe I was at that, and I can't believe I did this, and I can't believe I did that. And it's making them feel more unworthy of receiving love at this time. Because they've yet to forgive themselves. And yet here we are, right? We're talking about lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of experience of separation. And yet here we are. So none of us died. We just kept incarnating because we are the light of life that never ends. And yet, hi, here we are. We did exactly what we were meant to do, which was the script of separation. We experienced it. We did it. We experienced the complete polar opposite of our role on the opposite end of the spectrum. And here we are again. And it's like, guys, let it go. Source does not want us to keep beating ourselves up. Source wants us to expand and to evolve and to go in this direction that is already happening. I mean, Gaia has chosen it. So it's like heaven on earth is going to happen. And so actually I'm hearing people right now saying, okay, Nina, well, what do I do? Okay, so if you are identifying with this and right now and you're feeling like ashamed of the past lives that you've had, this is what I'm actually hearing for you to do. I'm hearing for you to go into meditation and to invite Source to show you the experience that you had through Source's eyes. Because Source's eyes are going to be very, very different than yours. From that perspective, when you see it from that perspective, I can guarantee that you will have a lot of compassion for the role and the lesson that you were learning at that time. See it through the eyes of the way that you see it through the eyes when you work with your clients or when you work as a healer. Because a lot of the healers I'm noticing have like tremendous self-worth issues. Because that's why they also heal everybody too, is they learn to be the healers in their families because it makes them feel worthy of receiving love. Source loves you without you being a healer. It's a gift you were given. It doesn't define you. It can't define you. So that's what I would suggest is ask Source to show you so that you can finally embrace and see this part of you and understand and have compassion for the aspect that learned this lesson through this experience. And now it's time to integrate it and go, okay, great. I don't have to keep learning that. We're here now. We're in this now moment now.
And I would add to that because God only sees God. He sees the perfection of Source.
That's true.
The perfection of that individual in their perfect innocence, in the flowering of their own consciousness. So I would add to anybody as well that is attached to past lifetimes, which you could say would be just situations that you could have done in this one, like past lifetimes with just a different face, a different personality, right? A different expression. But we learn based on the level of consciousness we have. So if the flower hasn't quite yet bloomed, then choices are made perhaps in ignorance or in unknowing. Well, pure innocence, like, have we ever done anything in this time? It's like, oh, shit, I wish I hadn't done that. I didn't mean that to happen, right? And go, oh my gosh. Well, we don't need to be in purgatory for thousands and thousands and thousands of years to be punished for it, for a choice that was made in ignorance or in low levels of consciousness or low vibration or what have you, right?
Right.
This is, yeah, I mean, what I with the clients that I see too, when lack of self-worth, the worth comes up, it's primarily attached to childhood parents, or and then would marry perhaps a partner who continues kind of behavior. And the reason why we attract those mirrors is for us to learn through, because our relationships are our biggest teachers, especially the ones that irritate the hell out of you. They're the biggest
Yeah.
haters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So self-worth. What can we share? Closing, because we're a little at about an hour. We're just going to keep it for an hour for today.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
What can we share? Anybody that's listening that can help them heal any idea that they've had that they're not worthy. I would say, first of all, it's just an idea. Everything is just an idea. And all of these ideas that we have on this planet were here before we got here. So we've been told by something other how to think, how to feel, how to judge ourselves and how to judge everybody else, which is what we just talked about.
Yeah.
The idea of not being worthy of the divine is as distorted as not being worthy of breath. Like, you know, it's
true, but it's true that when we're in this space, I've been in this space, you've been in this space, somebody can say that to us, but it doesn't matter because we're still crucifying ourselves, we're still judging ourselves. So if someone were doing that for themselves, first of all, I would say to pray. When you don't know what to do, pray for help. Ask for help. Say, help me lift this unworthiness out of my heart. Help me see myself the way you see me. Help me come to peace with this. Give me whatever I need. Sometimes we don't even know what we need to say. Just give me whatever I need. SOS, I need help. I would also say unworthiness is a frequency. All thoughts are frequencies. So they're thoughts that are operating on lower bands of frequency, more like 3D frequencies. We could call them like lower chakra frequencies. Not always necessarily, but the shadow aspect of the lower chakras, like the sacral area when it's imbalanced for perhaps. So if you can recognize it without the emotion attached to it, that like disarms it immediately. Because if you can take it out and look at it and go, okay, unworthiness is a thought, it's a program, it's a frequency. I'm going to take away the emotions behind it. I'm just going to observe it. You can go, well, what is the opposite of unworthiness? It's worthiness. And it's knowing that you're enough. I am enough. Not because I did this or because I did that or because this. No, I'm enough because Source made me. I am enough. And then the frequency of worthiness, to me, when I see this, for me, worthiness and connected in the heart is very rose ray. It's a very pink ray. It could be a different color maybe for someone else, but let's say, what does it look like to you? And I would say start tuning into that frequency. Choose that program. So when you hear the old program when they come up, it's just an audio tape player that's playing. You have to stop and you have to say, I'm sovereign and I'm becoming sovereign in my thoughts. I am choosing worthiness. I am worthy. Say it 9 times out loud because 9 is a very powerful number. And what you're basically doing is you're reprogramming yourself. I would say it out loud, not just in your mind. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. Give it energy. Give it power. We are so powerful. I mean, because Source is so powerful. We are so powerful. We just don't use all these tools all the time. So these are the types of things that I would say you have to reprogram your mind.
Yeah, because it's polarized. To your point, it's polarized thinking. It's a habitual thought pattern that needs to be recreated. And what I would add to that is looking at something that you are not feeling worthy of, whatever it is. I would say, can I love it anyway? Can I love it anyway? Perhaps I can love it anyway. Because like when I say that out loud, it's kind of like a jaw drop. Like it's that easy.
Right.
And then, you know, as the wonderful Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, he's like, think the thought that leads you to where you want to go. And
Yes.
it is feeling and thinking thoughts of lack of self-worth true? Is it really true? Come to the conclusion it's not true, and that we simply agreed to somebody else's idea. So let's our own idea, which is, yes, I am worthy. And to your point, that's the training of the new thought process, the new consciousness, the new vibration.
Yes. And then use other things to support that. So use flower essences, use essential oils that are the frequencies, like joy, for example, that of in the Young Essential Living. I got to experience that this week, and wow, it's tremendously beautiful. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, these would just help so many people who are dealing with heart issues and things of that nature. Use like the CBD oils that can assist in relaxing the parasympathetic nervous system, because when the parasympathetic nervous system is in fight or flight, it is very, very hard to get out of unworthiness. This is something that I've really been noticing a lot.
The parasympathetic is what speeds up all the processes. This is what heart math, right? And for those that are listening, the reason why it's really important to be aware of the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, is because the parasympathetic and sympathetic control 90% of the body's function. Right? 90%. So if they're used to being so excited, being so stressed, it is kind of like an addiction.
Right, right.
Used to your point, used to feelings of lack of self-worth all the time, right? All the time. Feeling gratitude or worthy can be a little uncomfortable at first, because it's like, this is new.
Right.
And so when you make the claims over and over again and you repattern your way of being, it'll get to the point where the worthiness is your state of being. It's just how you be.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have so many tools to support it now. Listen to the dolphins, listen to the frequencies, because they are holding that Lemurian divine energy, which is totally connected to Source's love and worthiness. And sometimes we need, when we're really stuck in the muck of our minds and we're stuck in those places, I call them like soul bondages, where we're still at, it's like we're in hell, because that's what the feeling is you're not in heaven right now. You feel like you're operating in hell in your soul, because it's very toxic to your being. Go towards that which is light. So support yourself, use your tools, you have to interrupt it. It's like, okay, I'm going to turn on this music that is a super high frequency. I'm going to change the channel. This is what being sovereign is. I am so sovereign that I'm going to become the sovereign master of every aspect of my being. And I'm going to command that it obeys Source as me, in Source in me. And this is the next level of maturity.
Yep. Yeah, and one other thing I can offer too, as some tools to help folks if they're in the muck, if they're in a funk, so to speak, is before you get there, write down a list of 10 things that make your heart sing, and how much time it takes. Like maybe it's your favorite song and it's 4 minutes and you want to just rock it out and dance it, because sometimes to snap ourselves out of a negative thinking pattern, we need to do like a big physiological movement. I know with my son, he was about 5 or 6 years old, he was going through a bit of a phase of negative thinking, and I'd get him to do 10 jumping jacks, and it'd be like, I want to feel good, I want to feel good. And usually by the third one, he starts to giggle and it snaps him out of it. But write a list of 10 things that you love to do and how much time it takes. Maybe a song is 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes for meditation, or maybe it's 30 minutes for a walk. And then when you're in a funk, go do that. Go do that one thing that makes your heart sing. And then the last thing is breathe with your consciousness, and slow breathing and reaching for feelings of gratitude, anything at all. The sunrise,
Yes.
a kiss from a lover, anything at all that you can reach for will help you repattern that thinking, move you towards being absolutely worthy, because you are absolutely perfect as you are. Absolutely. And you have the right to be just as you are.
Yes. Beautiful. I agree completely. Yes.
So I'm going to stop recording now. We'll say goodbye to everybody until next time, and then we'll wrap it.
Oh.
Bye, everybody.